Oh, must we leave so soon?
The Rider is a 2017 film directed by Chloe Zhao, and it is her second feature film after her debut, Songs My Brother Taught Me. The movie starts off with some slow motion, very close-up shots of some horses that's very evocative, very mystical, very dreamlike, and as it happens, it is in fact a dream sequence. We see our main character Brady emerge from his sleep, he goes to the bathroom, and the movie reveals that he has this massive bandage across his face, and as he's changing his bandage, what we see is he has this huge scar across his skull, which he got by falling off a horse, because the rider, the titular rider of the film is Brady, our main character. He used to ride rodeo, and he underwent a horrific accident, a life-threatening accident, and is basically trying to get better and, literally get back on the saddle. So the film is obviously about him trying to cope with losing what he loves, losing out on his dreams, but it is also very much a film about loss of identity and loss of self, as much as giving up on your dreams. Brady is a cowboy. He is in this very masculine cowboy environment, and he is the epitome of the American male. I mean, it doesn't get much more masculine and much more virile than being a cowboy, really. And so through his injury, he doesn't just lose his job, he doesn't just lose his passion, but he almost loses who he is and has to redefine himself. It's almost as if he's been emasculated. And the film kind of alludes to that idea of impotence, with his hand will clench up into a fist, and I think that's a result of the brain injury and of the seizures. He can't really have it unclench properly. There's very little feminine presence throughout the movie. It's a very masculine environment, and there's this very touching scene around the beginning of the film where him and all his cowboy buddies, get super drunk, and they sort of share their accident stories. Because they're all riders, they're all into rodeo, and so they've all fallen off the horse, they've all had some injuries, and some of them obviously not as threatening and not as severe as what Brady's going through. But it's this very nice little moment where they're sort of showing some vulnerability, only to immediately undercut it by saying, oh, well, you can't be a bitch about it. You just got to get back up on the horse and be a cowboy and be tough. It's a very powerful scene, and it feels extremely real. And one of the reasons why it feels extremely real is because of the way the movie is made, and that is that everybody in this film is a non-actor. They're actually real people playing real versions of themselves. So, for example, the main character Brady is playing himself and playing out his real-life story. The director met him, I believe, on her first film, where I think he had a little bit of an involvement on the film. Maybe he was training people for horseback riding lessons or something like that. And during that period, he himself fell off a horse while doing rodeo and severely injured himself. And so the director decided to use him and use that story and use all these surrounding characters from this community to play themselves and to construct a story around that. So his friends are his real friends, his father is played by his real father, his sister is played by his real sister. She's a really touching character, she gives a really good performance, and she has some mental handicap issues. It's never talked about within the film, which again makes perfect sense because she's like 15 in the movie, so everybody around her is already aware of what she's going through, what she's suffering with, and it wouldn't make sense for them to repeat things that they already know. If they were to talk about it, it would only be for the benefit of the spectator, and in this case, it's just a part of their lives, so they don't feel the need to address it. And so the film, as an entirety, flows really nicely in that space between fictitious narrative and documentary. The film borrows a lot from the social realist filmmakers of Europe. I thought a lot about the Dardenne brothers while watching this film. The way it's shot, it's very handheld. There are a lot of close-ups, probably a lot more cuts than in the Dardenne brothers films, who really like to let a scene play out. But at the same time, the director really has a very good understanding of the landscape that she's shooting in, of the mythical and the mystical aspects that are entailed by the cowboy, by the horse, by the American West. And at certain points, she will just blow the frame wide open and have these very Fortean wide-angle shots with the sun setting in the distance and the rider riding his horse in the desert. And those shots are very powerful. A, because they're pretty rare, so they're that much more impactful when they appear on screen, and B, because they're thematically resonant with the mental state of the main character. So the first time the character gets back on a horse and all of a sudden you're in this wide shot, you can really sense that he is breathing, he is free once more. The writer portrays a world that is harsh, that is tough. It has characters that live a hard life, that go through suffering, loss of self, that have financial difficulties, and at the same time, it's never a sad bastard film. It never goes for the over-sentimentality. Quite the contrary, actually. It's a film that is full of grace, of beauty, of pride, and of dignity. And I think that when you embark on this sort of filmmaking where you're using real people and using their real names and telling their real stories, preserving and rendering their dignity on screen is quite probably the most important thing you can do as a director. And for that alone, Chloe Zhao can be very proud of herself. She's made a tremendous Western that has a lot to say about the American heartland and what it means to be a man in America today. And I just can't wait to see what she does next. It's a film that I really wholeheartedly recommend. I don't really know how much of a distribution it's getting in North America, but if it's playing near you, you should go check it out. It's really good. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button if you liked the video, that would be great. And if you're not subscribed already, please feel free to subscribe. That would be wonderful. Until next time, thank you very much and see you very soon.